There is a truth that most people overlook: the words you speak to yourself never vanish into thin air. They settle down and become commands for destiny. Every word you utter, whether it is only a whisper in thought or a declaration spoken aloud, is received by the subconscious as an instruction. And the subconscious, knowing no doubt, possessing no ability to argue, only knows how to obey. You may think that the morning complaints, "I'm so tired today, will surely be difficult," are nothing but fleeting emotions. In reality, they are signals you have just transmitted to set the rhythm of the entire day. Words create states, states lead to actions, and actions produce results. A single negative statement triggers a chain reaction that drags you into failure without your awareness. On the contrary, the one who knows how to command inner words possesses the key to a different door. When he tells himself, "I am strong enough to face this day," his body and mind immediately respond like an army, receiving a clear order. Focus emerges, energy rises, actions gain direction, and reality begins to bend according to the affirmed words. Inner speech is the chisel striking upon the stone of the subconscious. Each strike engraves a belief, an image, a command. That stone does not ask whether it should accept or not. It simply records. The real question is, what are you engraving on it? Strength or weakness, faith or doubt, light or darkness? In every civilization, people have believed that words carry a sacred essence. Religion calls it prayer. The sage calls it self-talk. Modern science calls it neural signals. Though the language changes, the essence remains the same. Words activate the mechanism of self-fulfillment. Whatever you declare, body and mind begin searching for ways to make it real. Observe an athlete before a competition. He never mutters, "I might lose, I probably can't handle it." He says to himself, "I am prepared, I will surpass my limits." These commands pump adrenaline into the blood, expand the lungs, tighten the muscles, and awaken hidden strength. If an athlete dares to plant the seed of defeat within himself, then the loss is sealed before the whistle even sounds. In daily life, this mechanism works with the same precision. The one who constantly complains of poverty keeps sowing "I don't have," and his whole world turns into proof of that statement. The one who affirms "I am on the path to wealth" gradually encounters opportunities, relationships, and ideas that validate the affirmation. The outer world, in the end, is nothing but a mirror reflecting the voice within. The difference between success and failure does not lie in starting points, but in the nature of the dialogue within one's mind. A person who keeps saying, "I'll try, but it's probably too hard," has already planted the seed of doubt from the outset. Another person with the same starting point says, "I will do it because it is my path." One sends out a weak frequency, the other transmits an iron command, and the universe, without bias, only responds to the signal it receives. Never underestimate a single word. It is like a seed planted in the soil. You say, "I can't," once, the subconscious records it and then begins to look for evidence to reinforce it. It makes you feel tired, directs your eyes only toward obstacles, and steers you into avoidance. From one small word, an entire reality is woven, but you can also choose to sow another seed: "I will find a way." Instantly, your nervous system, intuition, and circumstances outside begin to cooperate in opening a path. The issue is not whether you speak or not, but what you are saying. You cannot avoid self-talk. Even in silence, you are constantly broadcasting signals in your mind. There is only one choice. Either you control it, or it controls you. Inner words are a double-edged sword. They can open the road to victory or cut off your wings. A person never fails because of circumstances before failing in words. The first collapse always happens inside. When he says, "I have already lost the battle," in life is nothing more than the ceremony completing that declaration. Therefore, the beginning of every great change does not lie in how many skills you acquire or how many resources you accumulate, but in how you change the dialogue with yourself. Adjust one sentence, and the entire direction shifts. Replace "I will try" with "I will do," and you have crossed the line between dreaming and acting. Replace "I can't" with "I will find a way," and you have abandoned the role of victim to step into the position of master. In every moment, imagine you are commanding a mighty army, your very own subconscious. If you speak to it in a trembling tone, the army scatters. If you deliver your message with firmness, it immediately aligns its ranks and marches forward. That army does not distinguish truth from falsehood. It only executes. Therefore, be cautious. Every word is a command, every sound a slogan, every whisper a strategy of destiny. The power of inner speech is not a romantic idea. It is a law governing the mind, just as gravity governs the material world. You may ignore it, but you cannot escape its effect. You may deny it, but your life has already been and continues to be the precise result of the words you nurture within. From this moment, face the truth. You are the architect of words, and every inner statement is a brick that builds or destroys. Whether the house of your life stands firm or collapses, no one else but you decides through the very voice you whisper each day. If this video inspired you, hit that like button to spread the positive energy and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on life-changing insights. But don't stop there. I want to hear from you. Comment below and share your biggest takeaway or the one step you're committing to today. And make sure to turn on the notification bell, because the next video will reveal powerful strategies to break your limits and unlock your best self. We're building a community of action takers and dreamers, and I want you to be part of it. Every destiny is written from the smallest of words. Sometimes it is only 2 words, yet enough to open a door or lock away an entire life. I will try a phrase that seems harmless is in fact the seed planted in the soil of doubt. While it is mine, a decisive affirmation is the command that builds an empire of belief. People often mistake the great difference as lying in circumstances, resources, or opportunities. But in truth, the distance between success and failure is often contained within how we converse with ourselves. A person who says, "I will try to overcome," has already hidden an escape door within that statement. He leaves room for quitting. He plants in the subconscious a signal that failure may be acceptable. And the subconscious, absolutely loyal, begins preparing the script of defeat. In contrast, another person says, "It is mine, I will do it," and in that instant he severs the path of retreat. No more gap for compromise, no more space for hesitation. That is the voice of sovereignty. The subconscious receives the command and has no other choice but to summon every resource to bring it into reality. Look at the language of the great figures. None of them ever said, "I will try to change the world." They said, "I will change the world." None of them mumbled, "I will try to rise after failure." They declared, "I will rise because failure has no right to hold me down." Each of their words was not a suggestion but a command, and it was that very command which created an atmosphere of belief, attracting the people, opportunities, and circumstances necessary to fulfill the declaration. Try is the cloak of cowardice. It may sound humble, cautious, but in truth it is a compromise with failure from the very beginning. When you say, "I will try," you have bargained with yourself that if you do not succeed, it is also fine. Thus, the flame of determination is extinguished with a cold splash of water before it can ignite. In contrast, "It is mine" leaves no room for negotiation. It is the affirmation that the result has already been decreed. And when belief is declared as truth, reality is forced to shift in order to adapt. In business, someone who enters the marketplace saying, "I will try to start a business," often cannot withstand the first gust of wind. For when hardship strikes the keyword, try immediately becomes the excuse to retreat. But one who enters saying, "This business is mine, success is mine," will return even after many collapses, because in his mind the outcome has already been regarded as certain. The difference does not lie in intelligence, but in the tone of inner dialogue. In relationships, someone who says, "I will try to change myself," often walks only a few steps, for in the subconscious change is not mandatory. But the one who says, "I change because I have decided already," shifts energy the very moment the words are spoken. They walk as if the road were already paved, and each choice thereafter follows the direction of the original command. Try plants the seed of doubt. And doubt is the most insidious enemy, for it does not come with a roar, but with a reasonable whisper. It tells you, trying is fine. If you fail, you will not regret it. It tells you, don't be too confident or you will fall hard. But in truth, it is those whispers that prevent you from ever reaching the summit. Doubt corrodes determination as acid corrodes metal. A single drop is enough to weaken a steel bar. It is mine, on the other hand, plants the seed of certainty. It is not self-delusion, but the way to command the subconscious. When you declare something as though it has already happened, the subconscious does not distinguish between present and future. It immediately behaves as if the result is already there and leads you into the sequence of fitting actions. That is why affirming language has the power to turn not yet into already, to transform future into present. A seed of doubt once planted grows into a tree of hesitation. That tree casts a false shade that makes you comfortable to sit still, but its roots entangle your feet, binding you in mediocrity. By contrast, a seed of certainty grows into a tree of determination. Its roots grip the ground, its trunk rises straight toward the sky, and when storms come, it does not break but grows even stronger. Some may argue, what if I speak with certainty and still cannot achieve it? The answer is clear. The problem is not in the words, but in the commitment behind them. When you dare to affirm, "It is mine," you simultaneously bind yourself to follow the path to prove those words. It is that very pressure that unlocks hidden strength. No one knows how much weight they can bear until they are forced to bear it. Do not confuse illusion with faith. "I will become a billionaire without doing anything" is illusion. But "I will become a billionaire and I am already walking." That path is certainty accompanied by action. One is an empty dream, the other is a decree issued, one that reality cannot ignore. Looking back at history, every figure who carved their name into time carried within their inner speech an unshakable command. Edison did not say, "I will try to invent the light bulb." He declared, "I will make light shine." Mandela did not say, "I will try to win freedom for my people." He affirmed, "We will be free even if it cost me my life." It was precisely that tone of certainty that turned the impossible into reality. The turning point of your life will not come from a random opportunity, but from the moment you change a single word. Replace "I will try" with "I will do," and you shift the very foundation of the mind. Replace "maybe" with "it is mine," and you change the frequency of your broadcast. And the world, which is nothing but a truthful mirror, will return the image aligned with what you dared to declare. In every decision, ask yourself, what seed am I planting? If it is the seed of trying, stop and change immediately. Plant the seed of certainty so that the tree of faith will grow, rise tall, and bear fruit in the reality you live. Destiny is not a chain of accidents. It is the chain of commands you issue to yourself each day. And from today, there is only one command worthy of echoing in your mind. It is mine. Not a single moment in your life ever takes place in absolute silence. Even when your mouth utters no words, the mind still whispers, still emits invisible signals. You may not notice, but the outer world always responds to those signals. This is because the human mind operates like a broadcasting station that never rests, constantly sending out messages into the universe and simultaneously receiving corresponding responses. Every thought, every word you say to yourself is a frequency. And just as a radio can only tune into the station that matches its wavelength, your life can only align with the frequency you are transmitting. If the mind sends out fear, it will receive situations that intensify that fear. If the mind sends out faith, it will attract opportunities that reinforce confidence. Life shows no bias. It simply reflects back faithfully what you have sent. Observe those who complain constantly. They affirm life is unfair. I always run into trouble. The next day, new situations appear to strengthen that belief, a small difficulty magnified into a tragedy, a repeated failure serving as proof. On the other hand, the person who says, "I will find opportunity in challenges," often discovers a path exactly where others gave up. The difference is not due to luck, but to two broadcasting stations transmitting two opposite signals. The danger lies here. The subconscious cannot distinguish between a joke and the truth, between imagination and reality. Every word, every image it receives as a command. When you repeatedly broadcast a weak frequency, the subconscious accepts it as law and gradually adjusts behavior to fit that law. It makes you hesitate, choose the safe route, miss opportunities, and in the end confirm the very fear you once carried. Conversely, when you transmit the frequency of strength, the subconscious accepts it and seeks to turn it into reality. You tell yourself, "I can learn faster, I can push beyond limits," and the subconscious immediately mobilizes memory, focus, and creativity to support you. The outer world begins to present people, circumstances, and opportunities aligned with that signal. You may think it coincidence, but in truth, it is the resonance of the frequency you are transmitting. An entrepreneur who fails 5 times, yet each time tells himself, "I can still begin again, I will find a way," is maintaining the frequency of persistence. That very frequency pulls him from the rubble and places before him a 6th, a 7th opportunity. Meanwhile, the one who stumbles once and sighs, "I was never meant for business," has already switched off his broadcasting station, and the universe sends no further opportunities. This explains why two people with the same starting point, the same circumstances, arrive at entirely different destinies. One continually sends out the frequency of failure, the other transmits the frequency of victory. And like two magnets with opposite poles, they attract two opposite lives. Imagine the mind as a giant broadcasting tower in the middle of a city. It never switches off. The only question is, what program are you airing? Is it a news feed filled with fear, complaints, and limits, or is it a song brimming with aspiration, faith, and strength? Whatever program is broadcast, the city around will hear it and reflect it back into your life. Some console themselves by saying, "I'm just thinking for fun, it doesn't matter." That is where the mistake lies. Every thought, no matter how fleeting, is recorded. The subconscious is like a tape recorder, missing no sound. It stores it, repeats, it turns into habit, then habit becomes character, and character determines destiny. A feeble thought repeated many times becomes the dominant signal, and the world will respond precisely to that signal. The wonderful truth is that you can completely choose the frequency you want to transmit. By controlling self-talk, you adjust the antenna of the mind. When you affirm, "I am on a journey of growth, I am strong enough to overcome challenges," the signal you emit is already different. And instantly, you begin to attract corresponding circumstances. A simple affirmation repeated with strong emotion gradually rewrites the entire script of your life. Ask yourself each morning when you wake up, what are you broadcasting? If the signal is, "I am tired, I am powerless, I cannot change," then your whole day will revolve around exhaustion and helplessness. But if the signal is, "I am full of energy today, I take another step forward," you will see your body, mind, and even the surrounding circumstances begin to align with that belief. No one can avoid broadcasting. Outward silence only conceals the inner noise, and it is precisely that noise that decides the frequency you are sending. The important matter is not whether you are broadcasting, but what you are broadcasting. Every moment is a news bulletin sent into the universe. If that bulletin is flooded with doubt, the world returns more reasons to doubt. If that bulletin is filled with faith, the world supplies more data to reinforce faith. There are people who spend their whole lives resenting that destiny never smiles on them. But the truth is they are operating a faulty broadcasting station. Day after day, they transmit the frequency of failure, then wonder why victory never arrives. If you want a different future, the first step is to change the broadcast. The mind is a continuous broadcasting station. You cannot turn it off, but you can change the channel. And once the channel is changed, the entire life changes. This is not a vague philosophy, but a mechanism proven throughout the history of every great individual. They all began by transmitting a powerful signal in their minds, forcing the world around them to bend accordingly. If you are searching for the starting point of transformation, it is here in the moment you choose to change your inner language, shift your broadcasting frequency, and send out a new message. From that very second, everything you attract will be different. There is no faculty within man more loyal than the subconscious. It does not oppose, does not argue, does not analyze right or wrong. It only knows how to obey. Whatever command you plant within it, it will execute with full power, whether that command lifts you up or pulls you down. The subconscious is like a gigantic machine, silent yet full of power. Your conscious mind is merely the operator, while the subconscious is the engine that runs the system. The issue lies here. The operator often does not know which buttons they are pressing. You say, "I can't," that is a command button. You whisper, "I will try," that is another command. The machine receives the order, asks no questions, and immediately begins carrying out the corresponding program. When you tell yourself, "I am tired," the subconscious instantly adjusts energy to validate the feeling of fatigue. The body grows heavy, eyes dull, every task ahead turns into a burden. When you say, "I am full of vitality," the subconscious likewise executes, pumping hormones, expanding breath, making every cell respond as though energy truly were flowing. You do not need to persuade it, you only need to command. It does not distinguish between real or false, it only knows submission. That is why every word of your self-talk is an order issued to an invisible army, and that army never rebels. The problem is not its strength, but the quality of the orders you send. A general who issues the wrong command, the more loyal the army, the greater the disaster. The subconscious is the same. Its absolute loyalty can make you a victim if you are not vigilant. History has proven countless times people do not fail because they lack resources, but because they self-destruct from within. A student who tells himself, "I am bad at math," imprints that into the subconscious as truth. The result: concentration drops, interest dies out, memory blocks, and poor grades appear as proof reinforcing the initial prophecy. In contrast, the one who says, "I will find a way to understand math issues," a command for the subconscious to expand its capacity for learning. Gradually, new pathways to approach the subject begin to appear. In every field, this mechanism holds true. The person who says, "I am not cut out for business," will only see risks, only hear stories of failure, only feel fear. The one who affirms, "I will succeed in my own way," filters from the chaos of the world only the signals leading to opportunity. The subconscious is the filter. It filters according to the command. This explains why two people facing the same event can react completely differently. One sees failure as proof of worthlessness. The other regards it as valuable data to refine strategy. Both are correct in the way their subconscious has been programmed. One issues the order, "I am powerless." The other commands, "I have learned something new." The subconscious obeys, and from there destiny splits into two paths. You cannot negotiate with the subconscious. It does not listen to logic. It only receives orders through language, images, and emotion. That is why the words you choose in self-talk matter more than any long-term plan. A grand plan will collapse if inside you are repeating commands of failure. Conversely, even an ordinary plan can succeed brilliantly if backed by definite, clear, and continuous commands. Picture this: you are the commander standing on a high tower, and the subconscious is the army of millions below. You command advance, they march forward together. You shout retreat, the whole army scatters. Not one of them asks, "Is this order reasonable?" They only act. If you issue conflicting commands, sometimes advance, sometimes retreat, the army falls into chaos, loses direction, and ultimately loses the war. Your mind works the same way. One day affirming, the next day denying. The result is endless inner conflict. This is why Napoleon Hill once said, "No one can win if the subconscious is allowed to go astray." To control life, you must first control the orders sent into the subconscious. And the only way to do that is to speak with certainty, with the commanding tone of a leader, no hesitation, no ambiguity. The subconscious has perfect memory. It forgets no command. A sentence you spoke 10 years ago may still lie within it, continuing to shape present behavior. Have you ever heard someone say, "I've been shy since I was a child"? In truth, that is not innate personality, but an order injected into the subconscious repeatedly over years. It has carved in as grooves on stone, and by adulthood the person believes they were born that way. But if they change the command telling themselves, "I dare to express myself," and repeat it with strong emotion, the subconscious will also accept and gradually create a new person. This power is a double-edged sword. It can liberate or it can bind. The ignorant let complaints, fears, and pessimism slip in day after day, unintentionally turning the subconscious into a self-destructive machine. The wise guard every word, carefully allowing in only commands that nurture strength, thus transforming the subconscious into a loyal ally. When you know the subconscious obeys absolutely, you will cease to take lightly every word of self-talk. A phrase like "I can't" is no longer a casual remark, but a dangerous order. A phrase like "I will do," it is not just self-encouragement, but the ignition order for a colossal machine. The conscious mind only has power when it knows how to use the right words to program the subconscious. From there, your destiny begins to shift. Remember this: no one else has the right to command your subconscious but you. Do not hand that right to fear, to public opinion, to people who plant doubt in your mind. If you let them implant commands, the machine will still run, but it will run against you. Take back the role of commander. Choose your words as carefully as though you were writing the laws of your life, for the subconscious will turn them into laws that cannot be broken. Every great achievement begins with a command issued and obeyed by the subconscious. The question is, what commands are you issuing? If the answer is vague, conflicting, weak commands, then the results will be vague, conflicting, and weak. But if they are definite, clear, and steady, the results will take the same form. The subconscious chooses no side. It does not distinguish whether you command light or darkness. It is only loyal to the strongest, most repeated voice. And it is that absolute loyalty which decides either you become a victim of careless words or you become the commander who builds a destiny firm as stone. Words by themselves are not strong enough. An affirmation, if spoken with an empty tone, will simply dissolve into the air. But when words are forged with emotion, they immediately become commands, powerful enough to move the subconscious, stir all the energy within a person, and ultimately bend reality itself. Emotion is the fuel that sets words aflame. It is like fire beneath a pot of water. Without fire, the water remains cold forever. Words without emotion are only sounds, but words lit with faith, passion, and determination become the driving force for action. Observe someone saying, "I will succeed." If those words are spoken carelessly with wandering eyes and a trembling voice, the subconscious registers them only as a faint echo. It does not believe and therefore it does not act. But with the very same words, if they ring out with blazing eyes, a resolute tone, and a body full of energy, the subconscious instantly treats them as law and begins to unleash its full power to make them reality. Emotion creates vibration. The subconscious does not understand complex reasoning, but it is awakened by emotional vibration. Each time you affirm with fervor, that vibration engraves itself into the subconscious like a chisel striking stone. Once is not enough, but repeated many times with high intensity, the stone of belief is gradually carved into form. Conversely, indifference turns every word into rotten wood. A person may memorize hundreds of positive affirmations, but if they recite them mechanically without attaching emotion, those words remain soulless sounds. It is like reciting prayers without presence, mouth moving but mind untouched. The subconscious dismisses it as noise and quickly discards it. This explains why great leaders, great orators always combine words with intense emotion. When Churchill said, "We shall fight on the beaches, we shall never surrender," he was not merely reading a speech. He infused every word with the anger, pride, and iron will of an entire nation. It was that emotional intensity that made his words resound, etch themselves into the minds of millions, and turn into a unifying force. On a personal level, the principle is the same. When you say to yourself, "I will overcome," let your whole body participate. Speak in a firm tone, breathe powerfully, even clench your fist. Emotion does not come only from the mind, it is also awakened through the body. When body and mind align, emotional intensity multiplies and the subconscious cannot ignore it. Emotion is also the adhesive that turns belief into habit. A positive affirmation, if repeated dryly, hardly imprints deeply. But if each repetition is accompanied by excitement, passion, or the fierceness of a vow, then in a short time, the subconscious accepts it as truth. When belief is bonded with emotion, it cannot be easily replaced. Yet it is crucial to distinguish between explosive emotion and directed emotion. Explosion is like straw fire, burns hot and dies quickly. Directed emotion is the steady flame, persistent, continually fueled. Explosion may help you shout in a moment. Direction helps you sustain resolve through the months and years. That is why the essential skill is learning to create stable, consistent emotion rather than relying only on fleeting bursts of excitement. One of the most effective ways to generate emotion for words is vivid visualization. When you say, "I am living a successful life," imagine every detail: the home, the work, the freedom, the happiness. The more specific the image, the stronger the emotion. The subconscious does not distinguish between reality and vivid imagination. It only reacts to the intensity of the emotion you generate. This is also why grateful people often live happier lives. When they say, "I am grateful for life," they are not merely repeating words. They are attaching to them the genuine emotion of gratitude. That vibration makes the subconscious record the state fully, and the world outside responds with even more reasons to be grateful. Pay attention to how you speak about yourself. If your affirmation comes out with a sad tone, the dominant emotion is not belief but lack. The subconscious clings more to the emotion than the words. Thus, it is not only important what you say, but equally with what energy you say it. A weak affirmation can be overshadowed by the negative emotion attached, and the effect immediately reverses. Emotion is also the element that makes a command become law rather than just a suggestion. A soldier who receives an order from a hesitant commander will hesitate. But if he receives it from a general whose voice is firm, eyes bright, presence commanding, he will obey without doubt. Your subconscious works the same way. It does not hear words alone, but the emotion behind them. To fully harness this power, you must discipline emotion as you discipline words. Do not let yourself be dragged by unconscious moods. Learn to actively create emotions that support your words. Music, movement, visualization, breathing, all can serve as tools for fueling up. Treat it like filling the tank before a journey. Words need emotion to travel far. Success has never come from empty words. It comes from words ignited with powerful emotion, repeated until they become unshakable belief. And from that belief, steady action arises, turning results from vague possibility into concrete reality. The subconscious obeys words, but it only truly submits to words charged with the heat of emotion. That is why you cannot recite affirmations like a machine. You must live inside each word, vibrate with each sentence, so the subconscious understands this is no game but an absolute command. Emotion is fuel. Without it, words are cold stones. With it, words become fire bullets that pierce through every barrier. And in the very moment you learn to pour emotion into every word, you transform the subconscious into an unstoppable engine pulling your entire life toward the dream you crave. A single strike of the hammer cannot shatter the stone, but 100 strikes, 1,000 strikes will eventually create a crack. The human subconscious works the same way. It does not change from one fleeting affirmation, but it cannot resist the force of repetition. Every deep-rooted belief within you, whether positive or negative, is formed from a chain of repetition. A child who constantly hears, "You're so clumsy," will grow up carrying the belief that they are incompetent. Another child who each day hears, "You can do it," will naturally develop the courage to take on challenges. It is not one instance of hearing that creates the difference, but hundreds, thousands of times. Repetition is the hand engraving words into the stone of the subconscious. Adults are not exempt from this law. If every morning you whisper, "Today I'm so tired," then one day the subconscious accepts tiredness as the default state. You will feel your body sluggish, your energy drained, as though reality is merely following the script you've already written. But if each morning you affirm, "I am full of vitality, I move forward gradually," the subconscious will treat that as law, and your entire nervous system, emotions, and actions will fall into alignment. Repetition can be compared to drops of water falling continuously onto a rock. At first, the rock does not change, but over time, the drops carve out a hollow. The words you sow into the subconscious are the same. One instance of positive speech may show no effect, but hundreds, thousands of times they carve channels of belief, and once belief is engraved, actions, habits, and results all follow. This is why successful people all have the habit of repeating daily affirmations. They know the mind must be programmed continuously. A song you want to remember, you must hear again and again. A skill you want to master, you must practice endlessly. And a belief you want to solidify must be planted consistently until it becomes an inseparable part of your identity. Many people fail not because they lack determination in a moment, but because they do not persist in repetition. They affirm powerfully today, but tomorrow they complain. The subconscious is pulled in two directions, and in the end it records the signal repeated more often. If complaints dominate, then even the most passionate declaration becomes meaningless. The law here is harsh. The subconscious listens only to the most persistent voice. Some consider repetition boring, even useless. But they forget that the very essence of human nature is built on repetition. You cannot build muscle after one workout. You cannot master a language after one lesson. And you cannot develop ironclad belief after one affirmation. Great transformation is never the product of a momentary burst. It is the result of steady, consistent drops over time. Observe bad habits. No one becomes addicted to their phone after one scroll. But repeating the behavior day after day, the brain engraves it into a pattern, and by the time you realize, you've become a prisoner of the very habit you built. If repetition can bind you with chains, it can also set you free if you know how to reprogram. An entrepreneur may fail 10 times, but if each time he repeats in his mind, "I learn, I move forward," then a solid belief is carved deep within. From that, the 11th attempt becomes the breakthrough. An artist may be rejected hundreds of times, but if every day she tells herself, "I was born to create, I will not stop," then at some point the subconscious transforms persistence into unstoppable strength, and the final opportunity will appear. Repetition also has a special impact on emotion. An affirmation spoken once may only brush lightly against emotion, but when repeated, intensity increases like sound echoing in a cave. Each echo grows stronger until it reverberates through the whole body. When you repeat, "I am strong enough" every morning, over time you not only speak it, you believe it, you feel it, you live it. And from that moment, reality is forced to change to match the new belief. One unchanging principle repetition turns the random into the permanent. A signal you transmit once may vanish, but a signal transmitted continuously will shape the atmosphere in which you live. Complain continuously, and your life fills with gray clouds. Affirm continuously, and the light of belief gradually pushes out the darkness. Repetition is not just a method, it is the only road to transformation. Those who dismiss it often quit midway. But those who persist understand that every repeated word is another strike against the stone every day, another step forward, and eventually the very rock of destiny must take on a new shape. So never underestimate the practice of repeating an affirmation each day. Do not think, "What difference does it make to keep saying the same words?" The difference lies in persistence itself. On the first day, you say it casually. On the 10th day, you begin to feel it. On the 100th day, you live it. And from the moment belief becomes identity, reality has no choice, it must comply. The subconscious never argues, it only counts repetitions. Whoever speaks the most, whoever repeats with the most persistence wins. If negative voices are repeated more often, they seize control. But if the voice of strength rings out continuously, it gradually overpowers and silences the others until it becomes the absolute command. Repetition is the simplest yet most effective weapon you hold in your hands. It demands no innate talent, no favorable conditions, only the discipline to sustain it. And when you sustain it long enough, you will witness the miracle from words to belief, from belief to action, from action to destiny. Let every day you live be a cycle of powerful commands. Let the subconscious hear the same affirming song until it accepts it as the only melody. And when repetition reaches the saturation point, when belief has hardened into steel, no force will be strong enough to break the path you have chosen. Every dynasty needs a protective wall for enemies, come not only from outside, but also through the cracks left open within. The life of the spirit is the same. Your most dangerous enemy is not in the external world, but in the weak words that escape your lips. A complaint, a surrender, a can't may seem harmless, but in truth they are the very holes that destroy the fortress of belief. Weak words are like rust on steel. They do not break it immediately, but day after day they corrode until inner strength turns to ashes. You do not need a powerful enemy to fail. You only need the habit of releasing words that betray yourself. I can't, I don't know, maybe someday I will try. Each one is a rope. Repeat them enough and they tighten until no room remains to struggle. The tongue, if undisciplined, becomes a silent traitor, signing your defeat even before you step onto the battlefield. In daily life, we easily let words slip without control, confront a small difficulty and immediately sigh. Too hard, I probably can't do it. Face a new challenge and quickly excuse, I'm just not suited for this. These words sound like natural reactions, but the subconscious cannot tell the difference. It takes them as commands. And thus, with an undisciplined tongue, you unknowingly order yourself to stop, to surrender, or to shrink back into the shadows. By contrast, those who know how to discipline the tongue, who weigh every word, see their lives follow a different trajectory. They do not let weak phrases fall from their lips. Instead of too hard, they say, this is the challenge that will make me grow. Instead of I can't, they affirm, I will find a way. Each word not only shifts their immediate state of mind, but also becomes the command that sets the subconscious in motion toward the right direction. The ancients said, disaster comes from the mouth. Few realize that not only disaster, but also happiness, wealth, and strength all begin from the mouth. You can build or destroy a future by the words you repeat each day. A leader never allows himself to utter negative words before his army because he knows one wavering sentence can shake the entire force. You are the same before your own army of the subconscious. You must speak with the tone of a commander, not of a beggar. Disciplining the tongue does not mean absolute silence, but eliminating the words that spread weakness. You cannot control circumstances, but you can always control the words leaving your lips. And if you can control that, you have already secured the gate that protects the inner fortress. Many people allow themselves to vent emotions through negative words, excusing it as temporary release. But what they fail to see is that every vent is another command recorded by the subconscious. There is no such thing as just joking to the subconscious. It does not understand irony or metaphor. It only records the raw message. A person who constantly mocks himself, saying, "I really am useless," will gradually behave like someone useless because the subconscious has accepted it as law. To change reality, you must first discipline language. Train yourself to listen to your own words. Each time a weak phrase is about to slip out, stop it. Replace it immediately with a strong affirmation. Replace "I don't know how" with "I am learning how." Replace "I'm too tired" with "My body needs more energy and I will give it." At first, the replacement may feel forced, but gradually it becomes a new instinct. And when words change, destiny pivots with them. Some think that controlling speech too strictly will make them unnatural. But remember, without discipline, the tongue naturally becomes a destroyer. Nature does not always equal correctness. Weeds grow naturally, but to have a garden, you must pull weeds, prune, and sow. Words are the same. Only when disciplined can they bloom into strength. The tongue, when trained, becomes an invaluable weapon. It can build momentum, plant belief, and transmit energy to yourself and to others. A single sentence can lift the spirit of an entire group. One affirmation can unlock dormant potential. But that same tongue, if undisciplined, can kill desire, extinguish will, and push you into the darkness of failure. To discipline the tongue is to discipline destiny. Every day you have hundreds, thousands of chances to speak to others, to yourself. Each instance is an arrow released. A weak arrow sinks into sand. A sharp arrow pierces the target. The quality of your life in the end is the sum of those arrows. Turn your words into an iron wall, allowing no weak voice to escape. Let every word you release be a brick in the fortress, not a crack. And when you hold to this discipline, you will notice the difference: a stronger spirit, more decisive action, and clearer results. The subconscious obeys words, emotion fuels words. But it is discipline of the tongue that is the gatekeeper, deciding which commands the subconscious receives. That gate must be guarded strictly, for one slip, and the enemy of weakness will sneak in to sow the poison of doubt. One "I can't" is a drop of poison. One "I will" is a dose of strength. Choose the medicine you will take each day. That choice belongs to no one but you, and it begins with disciplining the tongue. In every attempt at change, people often become absorbed in focusing on actions, habits, or environment. But there is a deeper layer that determines everything: identity. You cannot sustain a behavior that contradicts the image you believe about yourself. Actions may differ for a few days, habits may be forced for a few weeks, but if deep down you still define yourself by the old identity, sooner or later everything will return to its starting point. Identity is not a coat you put on, but the skin that clings to you. It shapes thought, directs emotion, commands action. A person who identifies as "I am weak" may force himself to exercise, to study, to work hard for a time, but because the inner identity denies that effort, eventually he will give up and revert to the image he has believed. Meanwhile, the one who affirms "I am a warrior" will act like a warrior even before possessing full strength. And it is precisely the repetition of those actions that gradually solidifies identity, turning it into reality. Here lies the final secret. You do not act according to desire, you act according to identity. Desires can change, but identity is rooted deep within the subconscious. You may desire wealth, but if at heart you still believe you are poor, you will unconsciously reject every opportunity. You may want health, but if you label yourself "I am frail," you will find every excuse to skip exercise to preserve that image. Reality does not reflect dreams, it reflects identity. So how do you change? Through words that affirm a new identity, repeated until they engrave themselves deeply. Not "someday I will succeed," but "I am success." Not "I will become more confident," but "I am confidence." Words in the present tense turn aspirations into inner reality, and the subconscious, absolutely loyal, immediately acts as though it already exists. You may argue, if I am not yet successful, wouldn't saying "I am successful" be dishonest? No. It is the way you issue orders to the subconscious. Outer truth is only the delayed result of what has already been planted inside. When you affirm "I am success," you are not denying the present. You are laying the foundation for the future by redefining identity starting now. Remember that identity always triumphs over behavior. If you see yourself as a smoker, you may try to quit, but the sense of lack will pull you back. But if you redefine "I am healthy, I do not smoke," then every breath reinforces the new identity and quitting becomes natural. Identity is the root action, only the branches. If you want to change the canopy, change the root. Every great leader began with a declaration of identity. I am the liberator of my people. I am the one who ushers in a new era. They did not say, I will try to become. They said, I am. That identity not only lifted them, but drew entire crowds to believe. For when someone speaks from the deepest level of identity, their voice carries an irresistible force. A new identity cannot be born from waiting. It only appears when you dare to sever from the old definition. In a single moment, you can declare, I am no longer a procrastinator, I am a man of action. That statement, if repeated with resolve, becomes the cut that separates the old self from the new. And once the line is drawn, you are compelled to live up to it. But caution is necessary. Identity can become a prison if you unconsciously choose the wrong one. The person who keeps saying, I am unlucky, will imprison himself in chains even though countless opportunities for happiness surround him. The one who repeats, I can't do anything, will block every forward action. The subconscious does not argue. It only executes. That is why you must consciously choose identity as though choosing the only path leading to destiny. Do not wait for proof before you affirm. Affirm first with words, with visualization, with emotion, and let actions and results align in time. Edison did not wait for light to appear before calling himself an inventor. Because he believed he was an inventor, he had the perseverance to experiment thousands of times. If he had defined himself as a failure, he would have stopped after only a few unsuccessful trials. The power of identity lies in this: it makes every small daily choice consistent. A person who defines himself as healthy will choose proper food without strain. One who believes I am disciplined will rise early without inner debate. Once identity is clear, action becomes the natural continuation, not a forced effort. Identity is the final secret because it is the deepest layer where all change begins and ends. Dare to ask yourself, how do I define myself? What identity am I living by? If the answer is a weak identity, erase it at once. If it is a strong identity, repeat it, strengthen it, and live it every day. Destiny is not written by scattered deeds, but by the identity you affirm daily. That is the eternal foundation. Once you declare, I am success, I am strength, I am unstoppable, the outer world, whether it wants to or not, must reflect exactly that image. Identity, the final secret, is the key that allows you not only to dream of change, but to become the change itself. And from the moment you choose a new identity, you grant yourself the power to reshape your entire destiny. Hope is a flickering candle in the wind. It may bring a bit of light in the darkness, but with only the faintest breeze, the flame is extinguished. Burning desire, however, is a blaze that nothing can put out, swallowing adversity and illuminating the entire sky. Success has never belonged to those who merely hope. It only comes to those who let desire turn into a need that cannot be replaced. Hope whispers, I wish for good things to come, but burning desire roars, this must become reality. Hope ties the future to chance, while burning desire treats the result as inevitability. Hope is easily shaken when facing difficulty, but desire grows stronger the more obstacles arise. It is precisely this difference that creates the gap between those who live merely to get by and those who achieve greatness. A person who only hopes for success will stop the moment the path looks thorny. He thinks, maybe I'm not suited for this, maybe fate has not given it to me. Meanwhile, the one with burning desire does not ask maybe. He tells himself, success is inevitable. I will overcome or I will die on this path. That determination turns every failure into fuel, every difficulty into a stepping stone. Burning desire is what has driven seemingly ordinary people far beyond every limit. Edison failed thousands of times, yet he never merely hoped to discover light. He was driven by a burning conviction that there must be a way and that he would find it. That desire lifted him after every failure until at last the entire world was illuminated. If you look closely, you will see the difference in daily attitude. The one who only hopes often dreams in the dark, but by morning returns to old habits. The one with burning desire refuses to stand still. Each morning they rise with the question, what step will I take today to shorten the distance to my goal? Hope leaves everything to fate. Desire forces fate to move aside. Hope easily permits you to procrastinate. You say, someday I will change. But someday never arrives because you have chained yourself to a distant vision. Burning desire is different. It transforms longing into a survival need like breath, like water. You cannot postpone breathing until tomorrow. Likewise, burning desire turns the dream into a mission that must be acted on immediately. The core truth is this: burning desire allows no retreat. It burns the bridges behind you, leaving only the path forward. The hopeful keep a way out. If they fail, they console themselves that at least they wished. The ones with burning desire do not allow failure as an option. For them, success is no longer a choice, it is a duty. Yet burning desire does not appear by itself. It is nurtured through vivid visualization, through affirming words, and through powerful emotion. When you repeat your goal with unshakable belief, the image grows alive in your mind and gradually desire turns into flame. No longer I want, but I must have. It must be understood that burning desire is not the same as impatience. The impatient demand results instantly, and when they do not arrive, they lose heart. The one with burning desire, however, is endlessly patient because the fire within will not permit stopping. One is a torch that flares up and dies. The other is a fire that consumes all delay, burning steadily through the years. Burning desire also has a miraculous quality: it spreads. A person living only with hope rarely inspires others because even they do not fully believe in their dream. But someone with burning desire enters a room and their eyes, voice, presence already make others feel a powerful pull. Their inner fire ignites the surrounding candles. If you want to measure how serious you are about your goal, ask yourself, do I only hope to achieve it, or do I see it as something I must have? If the answer leans toward hope, you will find yourself making excuses, stopping often. If the answer is burning desire, you will see that you have no choice but to move forward, no matter how thorny the path. Remember, fragile hope may make you smile for a moment, but burning desire is the engine that pulls you through the coldest winter. Hope is the whisper of night. Desire is the call that awakens you each morning. Hope dreams in sleep. Desire forces you to act in waking life. The world does not belong to those who sit and dream, but to those who turn dreams into commands. And commands only thunder forth when desire has burned so hot that no room remains for hesitation. From that moment, the universe must make way, for the heat of burning desire cannot be ignored. You may continue to keep alive the candle of hope, or you may ignite the fire of burning desire. One waits for a miracle. The other becomes the miracle. That choice will determine the entire trajectory of your life. Desire is the spark, perseverance is the wind, and action without bargaining is the hand that carries the fire through the stormy night. Without one of the three, the flame will die out. Desire without perseverance is nothing more than a short-lived burst. Perseverance without action is meaningless endurance. An action, if it still involves bargaining, will quickly turn into half-hearted effort, leaving scattered results that cannot transform a life. Let us begin with desire. Without the inner fire, you cannot go far. But desire, if it remains only as the initial blaze of emotion, is not enough to last the long journey. Countless people have shouted great vows on the first day only to collapse at the first hardship. That is because they never managed to turn desire into the second quality, perseverance. Perseverance is the ability to stand firm when all the winds around you howl for you to stop. It is not excitement, but a smoldering determination repeated day after day. The perseverant person is like a small stream of water dripping steadily onto a rock. It may not show cracks today, but in time the years will reveal its unshakable power. Perseverance is the bridge that transforms the fire of desire into real results. However, there is one point often forgotten: action without bargaining. Many think that strong desire and persistent endurance are enough. But if every step is accompanied by bargaining with oneself, I will try, as long as it's not too tiring, as long as it's not too difficult, as long as I still feel motivated, then all power will be diminished. Bargaining is the knife that slices a dream into fragments until it becomes meaningless. The person who acts without bargaining does not ask, will it be easy? They only ask, what must I do next? They do not seek absolute convenience. They focus solely on the necessary step. For them, desire is no longer a distant wish, but a command that cannot be postponed. When desire has become a command, action becomes a duty, and duty does not bargain. Look at the timeless examples. A soldier on the battlefield does not bargain with bullets and bombs. He simply moves forward because the command is clear. The inventor does not bargain with thousands of failures, for to him finding the solution is not optional, it is inevitable. The true entrepreneur does not bargain with the harshness of the market. He throws himself in, tries, fails, learns, and starts again until he discovers the way. Bargaining comes from the instinct to hold on to a piece of safety. It is like rowing a boat while still tying it to the dock, keeping a rope just in case of stormy waves. But that rope is the very reason the boat never sails into the open sea. The one who acts without bargaining is the one who has burned the bridge, cut the rope, and left themselves with only one option: move forward. This does not mean blind recklessness. Action without bargaining is not jumping into an abyss without thought. It is the decisiveness of commitment. Once the path is chosen, there is no turning back because of difficulty. You can still change strategy, but the goal remains unshaken. You can still adjust the way you walk, but the steps never stop. Desire creates the fire, perseverance keeps the fire, and action without bargaining carries the fire to the destination. These three elements form an inseparable chain. Those who have only desire are impulsive but quick to give up. Those with both desire and perseverance but who still bargain will only move halfway, never reaching the summit. Only when all three converge does one become truly unstoppable. The question to ask yourself is, how am I acting? Am I still bargaining with myself? Each time you say, "I will do it," but you are adding conditions to your dream. The more conditions the dream has, the weaker it becomes. Only when you declare, "I will do it no matter what," does the dream turn into a flame that nothing can extinguish. Remember, life will never offer perfect conditions. There will always be fatigue, always lack, always doubt. If you wait until everything aligns, you will wait forever. Action without bargaining is the acceptance that difficulty is a companion and you move forward regardless. That is the true proof of strength. Desire, perseverance, action without bargaining. This is not just a formula. It is the only path to transform dreams into reality. Whoever masters this chain will escape the vicious circle of dreamers and step into the ranks of those who shape destiny. And once you have walked this path, you will no longer ask, "Can I succeed?" You will only ask, "How and when will I succeed?" That is the difference between the one dragged along by circumstances and the one who forces circumstances to yield. Nothing destroys a dream faster than doubt. Failure at least leaves behind a lesson, but doubt kills the journey before it even begins. It is like a slow dripping poison seeping into every vein of thought, paralyzing willpower, turning even the strongest into the powerless. Doubt does not arrive with a roar. It sneaks in with a whisper. Are you really good enough? What if you fail? Is it even worth the effort? These questions may sound reasonable at first, but behind the mask of caution lies fear in disguise. The moment you listen, the poison begins to spread, weakening the fire of desire that once burned so brightly. You must understand, the subconscious does not analyze, does not debate. It only accepts the strongest command. If desire is repeated, but alongside it there is the voice of doubt, the subconscious receives mixed signals. The result, half-hearted action, half-hearted results, a half-lived life. The dream never reaches its destination because you have given it two contradictory orders. An ounce of doubt can topple a ton of faith. You may spend months nurturing desire, but just a single moment of self-denial can shake everything. Such is the destructive power of doubt. It doesn't need much. A single crack in the fortress wall is enough for the enemy to pour in. What is even more dangerous is that doubt often wears the disguise of reason. It doesn't say outright, "You can't do it." Instead, it says, "Wait for a better time. Don't dream too big. Be realistic." On the surface, these sound like wise counsel. But the realism that doubt speaks of is nothing more than a cage of safety, keeping you trapped in the familiar zone where there is no growth and no glory. Remember, no great path ever began with absolute certainty. Those who made history acted while others doubted them. They did not wait until proof was abundant to believe. They believed first, and proof came afterward. If they had allowed doubt to win the world today, would have no light bulbs, no airplanes, no internet. A person who carries burning desire but lets doubt creep in is like one holding a shining sword while allowing rust to eat away at it. The weapon is still there, but it has lost its sharpness. On the other hand, the one who protects their faith from every arrow of doubt keeps the blade sharp, forever strong enough to carve through every obstacle. So how do you neutralize this poison? The answer is decisive commitment. Decision is the only antidote to doubt. When you say, I will do it, I must do it, I already am that person, every gap for doubt is sealed shut. Hesitation is the gateway of doubt. Decisiveness is the steel door that blocks it. Train yourself to catch doubt the moment it appears and immediately counter it with a stronger affirmation. When doubt whispers, "You're not good enough," respond, "I was born to overcome." When it says, "Failure will shame you," declare, "Every failure is a stepping stone." Doubt cannot survive in an environment surrounded by unwavering affirmations. Here is a truth you must engrave in your mind. No one in this world is ever ready before they begin. If you wait until there is no doubt to act, you will wait forever. Successful people are not those who never felt doubt, but those who never allowed doubt to rule. They command their mind, "Even if doubt exists, I will still move forward." And that step forward crushes every whisper. See doubt as the invader and you as the guard at the gate. Every "I can't" is an arrow from the enemy. Every "I will" is a shield you raise. This battle is not fought outside, but within your own head, every day, every hour. Whoever controls the words controls the fortress. Reality proves this. Many people do not fail because of a lack of talent or opportunity, but because they surrendered in their own minds. They never even fought the world before yielding to doubt. And the tragedy is that this surrender often hides under the names prudence or caution, but that so-called caution is merely a cloak covering fear. Conversely, those who dare to place absolute faith in their desire unleash an energy that nothing can extinguish. They know clearly better to fail in determination than to rot away in doubt. Better to fall on a great road than to remain safe in a narrow alley, and it is that choice which sets them apart. Doubt is the poison that kills dreams. Decisive faith is the only antidote. Every time you stand between two voices, one whispering fear, the other shouting certainty, choose the voice of certainty. For your dream needs only one crack to be killed, but it also needs only one strong decision to be saved. You cannot prevent doubt from knocking, but you can choose not to open the door. Let it knock until its hands bleed, while inside the fortress there is room only for faith, desire, and action. Then your dream will no longer be a victim, but an inevitable victory. Doubt is like a fog that covers your vision, making you falter even before the journey begins. But no cloud is strong enough to block a rising Sunday. The only light that can pierce through the darkness of doubt is decisive action and absolute faith. These are not two separate forces, but a pair that walks together. Decision is the door that opens, and absolute faith is the foundation that keeps you standing firm once you step through. A true decision is never a vague promise. It is the sword stroke that severs every path of retreat, the clear line that divides before and from now on. When a person decides, it means he has cut off all bargaining with himself. He no longer asks, should I or shouldn't I, but only, how do I make it happen? Remember, without decision, even the greatest desires will die prematurely. A person who carries a mountain of dreams in his heart but never dares to choose a concrete step will remain stuck forever. Decision is the act that turns dreams into instructions. It does not wait for enough data. It does not need every condition to be perfect. It is simply the bold declaration, "I will do it no matter what happens." Yet decision is only the beginning. It needs something to guard it against headwinds, and that is absolute faith. Absolute faith is not the naive belief that everything will be easy, but the hardened conviction that no matter how hard it gets, the final result still belongs to you. It is what keeps a person from collapsing when failure knocks, when mocking laughter rings out, when the path turns darkest. Those who have never truly decided often say, "I will try," but try is only a half-open door for doubt to rush in. The one who decides says, "I will do it." And once affirmed, he gathers all intellect, strength, and emotion to prove it. The outside world has no choice but to react, because no absolute faith can ever be ignored. Look at those who changed the course of history. They did not wait for all conditions to ripen. They decided first, then let absolute faith guide them through every obstacle. Inventors, leaders, reformers all shared this in common. A decision so strong it left no retreat, and absolute faith so unshakable that every doubt became nothing more than a distant echo too weak to stop them. You can see the difference in daily life. A person who decides to train his body with absolute faith that he will achieve his ideal shape will not be easily defeated by temporary laziness or a few mocking comments. In contrast, the one who tries to exercise and hopes to lose weight will quit in the first week when no results are visible. Decision and absolute faith are the dividing line between consistency and inconsistency. Absolute faith has a special power. It makes the subconscious pour all resources into making what is believed to become real. When you affirm, "I will surely succeed," the subconscious does not analyze whether you are truly skilled enough. It begins searching for ways, drawing in data, opportunities, and strength to align with that command. But if you half believe and half doubt, the subconscious receives conflicting signals, leading to half-hearted actions and fragmented results. What keeps many people stuck is that they confuse decision with desire. Desire is an emotion. Decision is a command. Desire can change with moods. Decision, once made from the depths of willpower, becomes immutable. And when that decision is reinforced with absolute faith, it becomes an unstoppable force. You may ask, how do I build absolute faith when I don't yet see results? The answer: through repetition and emotion. Every day, reaffirm your decision with a decisive tone charged with powerful feeling. At first, you may not fully believe, but gradually the subconscious will take it as truth. And once the subconscious believes, both behavior and environment will bend to align. It is also important to note, decision does not mean rigidity in methods. You can change strategies, but never the goal. The path may twist and turn, but the destination is fixed. It is absolute faith in the destination that gives you patience to test many routes without ever giving up. In reality, many fail not because of a lack of opportunity, but because they never truly decided. They let themselves drift between two shores, half wanting, half fearing. That in-between is the perfect breeding ground for doubt. Only when you firmly declare, "I choose this path and I am certain the result is mine," can the poison of doubt be completely eradicated. Decision and absolute faith. This is the only antidote to doubt. Once you have taken this medicine, you will feel your mind clear, your path obvious, and every step stronger. No more nights of tossing between "can I," but only the busyness of finding "how will I succeed." You can continue living in the gray zone, letting doubt slice your dreams into pieces. Or you can choose the blazing light of decisive action and absolute faith. One path leads to endless delay, the other opens the door to an unstoppable destiny. And remember, once you have truly decided and believed, the universe begins to arrange the pieces. Opportunities, people, events all appear not because of magic, but because absolute faith makes you see them and seize them. Decision and absolute faith, this is the shift from dreamer to creator. And it is the final affirmation that no cloud of doubt can ever block the blazing sun of human will. Within every human mind exists a battlefield where thousands of thoughts, memories, emotions, and desires crowd together, each fighting for dominance. There are voices that whisper doubt, echoes of past failures, and fiery desires urging you forward. But in the end, only one voice is allowed to issue the supreme command. The question is, do you have the courage to seize that command, or will you let destiny drift aimlessly in chaos? The one who does not command destiny becomes a mere foot soldier of circumstance. When the wind blows, they bend with it. When storms come, they curl up in fear. When opportunity appears, they hesitate and let it slip away. In contrast, the commander of destiny is like a general on the battlefield, surrounded by danger, perhaps encircled on all sides, yet still boldly giving the order, "Advance." The army within the mind obeys, instantly acts, and breaks through every resistance. To become the commander of destiny is not to hold absolute external power, but to master the inner world. True power does not lie in titles, wealth, or the praise of the crowd, but in the ability to command your own words, emotions, and thoughts. He who can issue commands to himself never needs to beg the world. He who cannot command himself will forever live under the command of others. A general never gives orders with a trembling voice. His commands must be clear, decisive, leaving no room for doubt. Likewise, the words you speak to yourself each day must resound like decrees. Not "I will try, but I will do." Not "I hope for success, but I am success." Each command, when issued with unshakable belief, makes the subconscious act like a loyal army, opening paths that once seemed non-existent. The commander of destiny also understands that the battlefield is never peaceful. Arrows of doubt will be shot, whispers of weakness will knock at the gate, but instead of trembling, he stops them at the fortress walls, refusing to let a single weak word slip through. He guards the tongue, trains the emotions, repeats affirmations, nourishes desire. This is a strategy of both defense and offense, transforming the mind into a fortress that cannot be breached. Another defining trait of the commander of destiny is that he does not bargain with himself. Once a command is issued, he does not add conditions like as long as it's not tiring, as long as it's easy. The command has been given and it must be carried out to the end. Such decisiveness eliminates every gap for doubt to creep in, and because of this, each step he takes, no matter how small, carries an unstoppable weight. The call to arms is not meant to be shouted in moments of excitement, but to serve as a daily reminder you are your own general. Envision this clearly in every circumstance. You are no longer the passive one waiting for fate. You are the figure standing in the battlefield, gripping the sword of words, commanding the army of your subconscious to march forward. Once that image is engraved deeply, hesitation will no longer have a place. Never forget, history does not record those who let circumstance drag them along. History remembers those who stood tall and declared, "I will walk this path." Great individuals were not the lucky ones. They were the ones who mastered themselves, who dared to issue commands to their own lives, who dared to turn every word into instruction, and who persevered until reality surrendered. You can choose to let the weak voice remain the commander. If so, your life will be a disorganized army moving in chaos and ending in defeat. But you can also choose to become the true general, the one brave enough to seize command, the one who dares to declare to himself and the world, "I am the architect of my destiny." This is not only a choice, but a responsibility. For if you do not command, who will command for you? If you do not give the orders, another voice will. If you do not stand, your dream will be buried. Only in the moment you dare to rally yourself does life truly begin to move in the direction you choose. The final call to arms is this: seize command. Become the commander of your destiny. Do not let circumstances decide who you are. Let yourself decide how circumstances must bow. When you live with this spirit, everything outside, whether difficulty, challenge, or opposition, becomes nothing more than pieces on the board forced to move according to the strategy you have already set. And once you have become the commander of destiny, you will no longer walk in the shadow of fragile hope, but in the light of burning desire. You will no longer stop because of doubt, but march forward with absolute faith. You will no longer act half-heartedly, but live fully in alignment with your own commands. From that moment, destiny is no longer a sentence imposed upon you, but a symphony you compose. And you are the conductor leading the entire orchestra of thoughts, emotions, and actions into the grand symphony called your life.